Oh, what up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Elseworlds Exchange. Oh my god, this is actually more like a informal episode of Spider-Versity, available on Only Stupid Answers' YouTube channel and Patreon, Only Stupid Answers at Patreon, and of course, DJ Woolridge, the host of said channel. Welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it. Always a pleasure and a joy.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine, my friend. We've been doing that show for a long time now.
Longer than you'd think.
It's true. You'd think
yeah.
it feels like it was only been like 6-8 months, but really
Yeah.
it's
been
like
a couple
2 years.
years. Yeah, I keep waiting for my sense of time to return from the pandemic, and it just
100%.
hasn't.
Nope.
Yeah.
Like, when was 2018? Oh, like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
6.
Yeah, because it starts to be like, okay, so what was 2020 a couple years ago? No, 4. What?
Yeah, all the trauma you have from high school, that amount of time.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, so then once it normalizes, like, what other awful thing's going to happen that it's like,
oh yeah,
another tailspin.
Well, that's the thing, right? Well, that now the world's going to get out of the way for your personal tragedies.
Yeah.
That'll completely derail your life. I'm excited because not only we're going to talk about Spider-Man, we're going to talk about we're going to pitch some ideas for who should be Spider-Man's next girlfriend, if he should even have some new love interest. I feel like that's a no-brainer, but
yeah, of all the characters, Spider-Man, you know,
come on, the Archie Andrews of the superhero world. Are you kidding me? But before we get into it, DJ has some exciting news because he's finally getting to make that movie that he's always been talking about. And
yeah, man,
it's on Kickstarter. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, gunplaymovie.com. Or go to Kickstarter and type in Gunplay, whatever works for you. But gunplaymovie.com, there's probably a link in the description. You guys know how to find things.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of like time dilation, I originally was going to do this campaign a version of this campaign in 2019. I had to postpone to 2020. We were shooting some proof of concept stuff that you can see in the Kickstarter trailer. But literally we were shooting it as everything began to shut down. And at the time, you know, like a naive American, I'm like, great, we'll quarantine for 3 weeks and everything will go back to normal. And so now 4 years later and 2 industry-wide strikes later, we're finally doing the thing. We're finally making the movie. And so if you want to know more about it, basically it's 3 shorts that tell one story. So each of these shorts is probably about 15 to 20 minutes, but there's a lot of characters that interweave. It all takes place on a single Halloween night as a pair of guys try to rob the son of a local crime kingpin, and things spiral out of hand, and they run across them and a rideshare driver who gets unwittingly involved in all this, kind of like run across a gamut of colorful scumbags, let's say. So if you're a fan of movies like Good Time or Pulp Fiction or Big Lebowski, stuff like that, or, you know, this is the comic pop crowd. So I don't normally get to pull some of my actually deepest inspirations. But if you've read Stray Bullets, that was a huge inspiration for this. If you've read, I know they're making an Amazon show now, Criminal. And Sean Phillips' Criminal. Huge. You know, it's one of those, like, you're reading those and you're like, I just want to make something like this. Those are big influences on this project. But here's the thing. You know, we have some of that test footage, but we haven't filmed it. And we cannot film it unless you go back it. So if this sounds like something you're interested in, if you're like, who's this DJ guy? But if you're a fan of Sal's, you might know people like Steve Zaragoza, Brie Essrig, Whitney Moore. These are friends of mine. They're incredibly talented actors, and they agreed to be part of the project. They're in one of the shorts. Roxy Stryer, who also co-hosts Only Stupid Answers with me. And you may know these people from like hosting stuff like SourceFed, but they're also incredibly talented actors. And so I wanted to involve them on this project. And if you're fans of them, there's tiers where you can get personalized messages from them. You can get an incredible poster designed by Sean Peacock that's going to be signed by the cast and crew. If you're so inclined, if you've ever wanted to be in a movie, there's a tier where you can be in the movie itself. You can also be a producer. If you've ever wanted to see your name on IMDb, on a poster, in the credits of the movie, you can be a producer on this project and get the big time. There's also, if you're a producer on it, there's going to be a special digital screening and Q&A that you get to be a part of. But I'm just really lucky that incredibly talented group of people wanted to do this project with me. The feedback we've been getting is really positive, and I think it's going to be something you all really enjoy. And if depending on how the campaign does, there's opportunities for us to expand the stories and maybe build this towards a full feature, which would be incredible. So please, please, please. Also, it's important to note, I've noticed some people that it is the beginning of the month. I know that's a tight time for some people, but you will not be charged until the campaign's over. So sooner the better. If you like, don't let yourself forget. If you're like, oh, that sounds really cool to me, go now, back now, and then you won't be charged till the end of the campaign. And yeah, that's it, man. You've heard me talk about this for a while. Did I miss anything? Is there anything
Right. No, I mean those are the tiers, those are the rewards. I mean, I think the initiative, as far as like what you would get out of it, besides getting to watch a man's dreams come true, that you know and you enjoy his projects and his creative output, but you also get to enjoy some dope content that DJ has put his heart and soul into. But you also get a little piece of it. You get to own a little piece of it. You get to take that and make it part of you by not only owning a piece of that by getting like merch, posters, etc., but you could be a producer. You could, I mean, all those things are all initiatives that I would be hard pressed to find alternatives for. It's a great idea.
Here's another thing I'll say. I'm
Yeah.
just doing this off the top of my head.
Please, yeah, that's what the show is.
So Sal and I do this show. We do 2 shows, Spider-Verse and Mutant Academy, and so we had an incredible artist do a sticker of Sal and I, me as Spider-Man, Sal as Wolverine, to celebrate that. And that's one's for my patrons. If you listen to those shows and you listen to that, that's for patrons. But I'll tell this to Comic Pop listeners.
Yeah,
any Comic Pop listener that goes over there, I will give you a sticker of Sal's Wolverine. I will give you that. So that will be something just for Comic Pop. Let me know you're coming from Comic Pop. We do backer kit. You can let me know through that too later.
Yeah, just
any Comic Pop backers, you will get Sal, your boy Sal over here. Whoop, there it is. Got my angles right. All right. Your boy Sal here in the movie Wolverine costume. I wish I had the picture with me. But it's dope, by the way. I'm really happy with the way that sticker turned out.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun to see. And by the way, if you are an eagle-eyed comic fan, you know that I believe it's Tenchi who did the art, and they do the they're actually doing an initiative right now. It's just like a personal kind of challenge to do a artist interpretation of the back issues episodes that we do over on youtube.com/comicpop. So every week when the show comes out, he drops a fun little like image of what the show would look like through the lens of like fiction. And so it's if you like that art, you're gonna love this. It's great.
You're gonna love it. That'll be something, a little extra bonus I'll throw in for Comic Pop listeners.
There you go, folks.
Go to gunplaymovie.com. And again, like I know with some of these movie campaigns, a lot of times it'll be like, well, Amazon's already bought it, but we just like a little whatever. That's not, if you don't back it, it doesn't exist.
That's right.
I don't have anybody. But if it funds, that gives us a little bit of flexibility. There's avenues open to us once it funds. But if it does not fund, it does not exist. Yeah. So please, please, please do yourself a favor, do me a favor, do Sal a favor. Go to gunplaymovie.com and back it.
Yeah. I should mention, of course, speaking of backing, that this show is sponsored by viewers like you. If you're watching the show live, you can be part of the show forever by using Super Chats. Ask a question or comment, we'll read it here on the show. Like Hulkzilla here, who says, it's Black Cat's turn for the cinematic spotlight, but I think Betty Brant can be a love interest too. Already established in the MCU, and nice callback to the comics when she was Peter's first girlfriend. Excellent suggestions, Hulkzilla. Thanks for your support. I'm excited to talk about this as well because it's a subject that's near and dear to my heart. I remember as a kid going to see the first Spider-Man movie in 2002. Yeah. I had already known everything about it before it came out. I'd seen pictures in Wizard magazine. I'd seen tabloid discussions. There was even hints that Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst were schlepping already. Yep. So we all knew that Mary Jane was on the horizon. And if Mary Jane was being introduced in that movie, there was not going to be any other love interest. It was going to be Mary Jane. Yeah. And so it was until the third Spider-Man movie. Although the instant, and I don't know about you, but I feel the same way, but I feel very strongly about this. When Peter goes to the Daily Bugle and Elizabeth Banks's Betty Brant says, "Welcome to the Daily Bugle," I was like, oh, never mind. Oh no.
Yeah, but unfortunately that was before Elizabeth Banks was Elizabeth Banks. And so they didn't know what they had.
Just Betty in a wig.
And that was because I had to have been post Wet Hot American Summer, right?
Yeah, it
So
had to be.
she was just at the start.
Yeah.
You know what's weird to me? You know what's wild to me?
Yeah.
Is that it make for that first Spider-Man trilogy, it makes sense because they're not going to do the death of Gwen Stacy in the first. You can't
You can't introduce her and then kill her.
kill her. Yeah, and especially not with where superhero movies were at Spider-Man. Like you're going to introduce him on one of his darkest stories. Like that'd be like, guess what? Gwen Stacy's going to die, and Harry Osborn's going to do heroin in the first Spider-Man movie.
Boom! We're gonna really like set fire to this franchise immediately. I think not. We want people to leave this theater feeling good and excited about a second one.
Yeah, exactly. So that makes sense. We're basically going to amalgamate Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy into a single character.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense. What surprises me, and I guess we did get away from this a little bit in Amazing, but like pretty much every adaptation since then, it's like it has to be Mary Jane. It's like in the Spider-Man PS4 games, it's Mary Jane.
Mary Jane.
In the new Tom Holland ones, we got to do MJ, and it's like you could do. It's like Batman. You could do each iteration could be a different love interest.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and could be his dedicated love interest. In fact, I was thinking back to my first introductions to Spider-Man in multimedia, outside of like direct adaptations like video games and stuff.
Yeah.
But in the cartoons, like in the first 1981 Spider-Man animated series, which by the way, DJ and I talk about over on Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But his love interest is Betty Brant.
Yeah.
It's his girlfriend is Betty Brant, and Peter is like in college, so it's actually well past the expiration date of their canon comic book origins.
Yeah.
So it's like, what was the thought process there? Like, what a weird decision. And it was just treated like any other relationship, but it's like it's a workplace romance for Peter and this character for this cartoon show that really had no business doing rom-com kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But they were like, yeah, no, in this version, Pete's with Betty.
And it's one of those like when you talk about the workplace thing, they were probably thinking like Superman, and I think
exactly
Superman and Lois, and I think like with the games in particular because, and Mary Jane's just not the Mary Jane I recognize in the PS4 games, which I really like.
They're great, but it ain't Mary Jane, or at least it's a different Mary Jane. It's that.
Yeah, why not Betty Brant? She's more closely. If you wanted Spider-Man to have a Lois Lane.
Yes.
She has one. Why not Betty Brant? Why not?
I fear because she is a brunette who has a bobbed haircut who takes no guff. I think they might find that actionable. But if they were to suddenly
true. But in Homecoming, it's a blonde. Like you could, I don't know. I think there's a more flexibility there.
Yeah.
Than they let themselves have, which is interesting because the comics can't do enough to have. The one place I want to see Peter Parker definitively with Mary Jane is the one thing they won't do. Just have him be married to Mary Jane in the comics.
Right, exactly.
Ultimate Spider-Man should just be Spider-Man. That should just be Spider-Man stories.
Yeah, it's very okay to just do it that way. And now, thankfully, we live in a reality where there is an Ultimate Spider-Man who is married to Mary Jane, and that's where we are. The other problem we have to deal with is the like Sony Disney-ification of Spider-Man's entire cast and how effing weird and topsy-turvy is. Like, I agree. I think it'd be great if they were like, oh, let's play around with it. I mean, obviously, like Liz Allen, there was very little to work with in terms of high school Liz Allen anyway. So they're like, let's just make it from whole cloth, give her a new dad, and just go from there. Yeah. Great idea, great fun character, and actually a good actor. And it would have been fine to see her return. Maybe she shows back up in the future. She's like, my dad went to another friggin' reality and then came back.
We'll just unpack all that.
Right? But for Laura Harrier, like she could come back and like be given more to do as as like a college age adult woman. Yeah. Though I doubt it. But the other thing is like, oh, Betty Brant makes perfect sense until you think about Homecoming and you're like, oh yeah, that's right. She looks exactly like Gwen Stacy for no good reason.
Yep.
And like, how are we going to like? First of all, what? Like, this is the Genki Ned situation where it's like, let's just blend two characters at once. And it's like, it's with Genki and Ned, it's like, all right, you took Miles's best friend and a like not technical antagonist to Peter. Like Ned Leeds is not Peter's friend.
No,
they are not friends.
He's called Ned Leeds, but they wanted to combine Genki with Harry.
Yes.
And I feel like there's a lot of like, that's the problem with, and people are complain about it more, but I would argue it's always been a problem with the MCU and the way that it's done things.
Mhm.
is there's a lot of like vestigial limbs of like the aborted ideas. So
Yes.
I feel like there's definitely at one point there was definitely conversations on Homecoming that in the third movie we'll have Ned
Mhm.
become a hobgoblin and it'll basically be our version of Harry, which I think is like wrongheaded on a lot of levels.
A lot of levels.
Which is fine that they didn't do it. It's just it's and you know, the one place Genki hasn't gotten screwed in
Mhm.
outside the comics is the games.
Yes.
Because the games he's allowed to be ganky, but Ned is such a ganky
Yeah.
that even in across the Spider-Verse movies, ganky doesn't even factor into them.
Doesn't do anything. Like
Yeah,
he technically exists. He was like an Easter egg in the first one
yeah.
and has like one speaking line in the second one.
And his
Like
one
there's
speaking line is a joke that like, "Hey, I'm not like I don't want to be the guy in the chair. Isn't that funny that I'm not the character? I don't get to be the character I am in the comics."
no. Like no, it's not. It's actually kind of weird that
Yeah,
you're even here. Like
yeah.
why bother to do it if you're going to do it so wrong it's confusing.
Can I
Uh
float you an idea
I would love to hear a floated idea.
that I feel like I'm going to get a lot of pushback on?
Mhm. Mhm.
But I feel like what might have been more interesting because so we've talked about on our Spider-Versity shows Spectacular Spider-Man, and to me
Ah,
that's like the perfect example of how to do an adaptation. You
yes.
change what you need to and keep what's important. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yep.
And so you're evolving the story while having it still feel familiar. Actually, I think a good recent example is the My Adventures with Superman animated series.
Ah, yes, of
It's like,
course.
oh yeah, this everything I love about the characters here, but there's some things that are way different, and that makes it
Mhm.
engaging.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to give, I understand the instinct of saying we want Peter to have a friend,
Right.
and we don't want to do the Harry thing again. I
Yes.
get all that. Let me throw this out there. What if you had it be? Oh, I'm going to get so much heat. I probably shouldn't say
I
this.
don't know. Let's see.
Let's see.
I'm
All right,
excited.
you have your person in the chair be Gwen, and you make her a lesbian, and you say Gwen's here,
Right.
but they're not going to hook up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It immediately removes the fear that she'll die.
Yeah, and here's the thing, in my opinion, and Sal is much more knowledgeable about this stuff than I am. The the story I always heard, the reason they went with MJ over Gwen is Gwen was boring. Gwen was kind of a blank slate, but what that means is you get more flexibility with what you can do with her.
Yeah.
The one thing that it's actually my argument of why Wally's better than Barry. The most
Right.
interesting thing Barry ever did was die. Same with
Yes.
Gwen. The most
Yes.
interesting Gwen
Agreed.
story is she died, and so it's
Yeah.
like let's switch up
There's
that relationship entirely.
I agree. I mean, like, honestly, if I were to, if you want to go farther with that, I thought you were going to go in another direction, but I am not averse to the idea that Gwen is not like physically interested in Peter,
Yeah,
predisposed to that idea. I mean, obviously, like we're in a world where like I don't know what Spider Gwen, what her sexual orientation is.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there
Mhm.
is this implication that that there might have been like some kind of like romantic history, but like it also wasn't really long enough for us to get what Peter and Gwen's relationship was in the other reality.
Yeah,
It could have just been platonic. I don't know. I also don't like care.
yeah,
So it doesn't, you know, I'm like, yeah, knock yourself out. Like, as long as I don't see, because here's the thing, I got a cinematic adaptation that showed me the death of a Gwen Stacy who had personality, and I loved her, and I
yeah.
don't want to see that ever again.
Mhm.
I was like really bummed out by how brutal that was.
Yeah,
And so I'm like, well, we have that now. That's cool. We're good there.
yeah.
But I thought you were gonna go where it's like, just make Harry a woman.
Yeah, I mean, like that's which actually I'm just making it Gwen, but it's the same function of like that doesn't it can be like a canon character,
Yeah.
and it can be something, and that allows you like I really like the idea that in Homecoming that we're going to start with Liz because I thought at the time it's like cool, it's going to be Liz this movie, it's going to be somebody the next movie, it's going to whatever, and the second they do that stupid man, if I were ever made a video of like some of the worst moments in the MCU.
Yeah.
Nick Fury losing his eye to a catch scratch would be in there, and
Oh,
the
big
other
time.
one would be that stupid Michelle. And I think Zendaya is great. I think she's a talented actress. I wish they'd done different things with the characters in the movies, but I think she's great. But the moment of like, my friends call me MJ. I'm like, what? The whole point of your character in this movie is you don't have friends.
That's right.
What's happening right now?
Well,
And
I mean,
nobody
like,
calls you MJ. What are you talking about?
I think that was the joke. I think she's trying to say you're my friends, and
Yeah.
I want you to call me MJ.
And that's just an embarrassing way to phrase that. Then
It is, but they're all really weird nerds. I thought
Yeah.
that was kind of cute, and I didn't understand the popularity of Zendaya at the time, so I was just
Yeah.
kind of like, "Oh, cool, maybe we'll get there someday." And it was like, "No, someday is now, and it's
Yeah.
forever, and it's going to be the next 2 movies." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay." And like that's the thing where we got a lot of pushback initially when I just said, "Who's going to be the next girlfriend, if any?" And people were like, "Oh, what are we doing getting rid of Zendaya?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, how about the fact that like there's literally like dozens of women that Peter's been with, and some of them are actually interesting and could be like, why do we have to have this like dangling plot thread of like MJ and Peter were together for however long, I want to say like half a year in
Yeah.
No Way Home, and it ended. And
Yeah.
it ended tragically, and Peter made like this kind of noble sacrifice to not put her in harm's way, but he secretly pines for it. It's like an almost good adaptation of One More Day.
Yeah, yeah,
Because,
right.
like,
Maybe the best you could do with that turd.
if anyone at that level wants to admit that they were inspired by One More Day, then it technically would be the best adaptation of One More Day.
Yes,
But, like,
absolutely. No, and I'm
so
with
there
you, like, and it's also be sad. It'd also be like, not sad. I shouldn't say it that way, but like, I don't know, man. Let them try stuff out. Like,
yeah,
yeah, like let them. And I think there's merit in saying, like, okay, let's say we back up the money truck and we're able to get Tom Holland for another 3 movies, right?
right. Yeah.
And say like, yeah, great. So then post-credit scene of movie 1 or 2 is Zendaya showing up at Tom Holland's door, like, and she said, all you have to do is like, here's a knock. And if you want to keep the theme that these movies had, he answers, and it's MJ, and she's like, Peter, and then he's like, what the, and then you whatever, and
Right,
so now like,
exactly.
how does she remember? And now you see that's called an arc,
Mhm.
kids. Like that's interesting. That's how you engage people.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's like build to it or lead to it or pull the rug out from the audience. Like you introduce another charismatic, fun character. Like the reality is in the Amazing Spider-Man movie saga,
Yeah.
they made the mistake, honestly, of casting Emma Stone, who has endless charisma,
Yeah.
as a blonde,
Mhm.
known colloquially as a redhead. You're thinking, oh, well, like I when I think of like a fiery, passionate, sarcastic redhead from the East Coast, I
Yeah.
think of Emma Stone immediately.
Yeah.
So then they were like, no, we're gonna mess with your expectations, make her blonde, but put her in the whole outfit and do the whole thing. Okay, great. But like in Amazing Spider-Man 2, Shailene Woodley is Mary Jane. They shot all this stuff. They had no pre-apprehensions about being like, no, like she's gonna survive the fall and he's gonna be with her forever. No, like the
No.
second she says, I'm going to London, he's like, I'm going with you. I'm like, you're dead.
Yeah. There's
You're
no
dead.
Spider-Man. Like, could you imagine a whole Spider-Man movie that takes place in Europe? That'd be fucking
Wow,
wild.
that would be really boring, or at least disappointing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I guess I might forgive it if it spent the last, I want to say 75 seconds in Manhattan.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Or if we got like if we any one of those, like those movies were so allergic to doing anything like traditional,
Yeah,
and you could get fun stuff from that, right? So that
totally.
moment where he steals Flash's car and he's trying to drive instead of, that's fun. That's a
That's
fun,
fun.
like I haven't seen that or when he's climbing the Washington Monument. That's something
Yeah.
fun that I haven't seen
Hmm.
in a Spider-Man movie, but it was so like, we're not going to do any Spider-Man stuff, like any of the Spider-Man
Yeah.
stuff, and it's like, well, but it'd be
But
like,
then why are we doing this?
yeah, well, go to your point. This whole conversation about girlfriends, it'd be like having a Batman movie where it's like, no Alfred though. Alfred's dumb. He's not gonna have Alfred. And you're like, what? What are we?
Dude.
What? Like,
Oh
why?
no. Yeah, well, just make the Darren Aronofsky Batman Year One, because that
Yeah,
movie was like, oh, I want to make like a $600,000 Batman movie, and he's gonna have no money, and he lives in a garage, and
yeah,
Alfred's gonna be the mechanic that works there, and he's called Al, and I'm like, so you just don't want to do a Batman movie? Like,
yeah,
okay,
exactly.
just
We're gonna have him, but listen, man, we're gonna update it. So there's gonna be, instead of Alfred, there's gonna be a woman in a wheelchair that helps him named Al. And it's like, that's just Barbara Cor. What's happening? Am I
Yeah.
losing my mind? What's
that is. I mean, that you just described the MCU Spider-Man at this point, where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's that thing that I like. If you were just to show slides of things from these movies and show your like 12-year-old self
Yeah.
what this Spider-Man movie was going to be, you'd be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what's going to happen. It'd be like watching the Prometheus trailer before seeing the movie again, where I'm like, I could hit beat for beat what this movie's going to be, and then be hopelessly disappointed by what I saw instead.
How
But
can you finally give me a Spider-Man that's like hanging out with Iron Man and stuff, and I'm kind of disappointed with it? How does that happen?
yeah, and the second movie, he's sad because he's dead.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get to do anything in New York.
And then the
my
big
God.
climactic moment is like, hey, don't worry, Spider-Man, you are the next Iron Man. That's not what I want from a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, that's something that I never asked for or wanted. So wow, you gave it to me anyway. Thanks. Spider-Man's more of a Fantastic Four member. Are they in this universe? No.
Yes. No,
Oh
no, no.
crap.
But the better
Okay.
they redeemed a lot with me when it was like, oh, forget all that. Actually, the previous 2 Spider-Man are going to look at this Spider-Man and be like, you're Spider-Man now. I'm like, that's better. I like that more.
Yeah, the last like literal 45 seconds of No Way Home, they're like, here's your Spider-Man movie, you're welcome. And I'm like, I mean, like,
man.
did I cry at the end? Yeah, but like maybe because I've just been so like I've been so my subversions, all my expectations. You've gotten me. You've Ryan Johnson the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But
no, but like, that's what we're talking about here, right? So hopefully we're hoping that we're going to get this new trilogy.
Yes.
And so like
do something different. Give us someone else. I mean, listen, even in the 90s Spider-Man cartoon,
Yeah.
first female interaction he has is Felicia Hardy. The next one is Deborah Whitman. These are 2 characters that are admittedly in the cinematic world deep cuts, because like only one of them appeared at all, and she's not Black Cat.
Yeah.
So what the hell? But also Deb Whitman, I was like, whoa. I mean, like, I know who that is, but like, is anybody watching this show in 1996 remembering this character? But again, like, it was just like, yeah, well, I mean, there's just a ton of these characters. Yeah, we'll get to Mary Jane, you know, but it's a cartoon where literally no one can punch each other. So like, we can't introduce Gwen, she'll die, and then we'll have to put in Mary Jane. We can't do it that way. So here's Deborah Whitman instead.
Yeah. Everybody's favorite, Deb Whitman.
Who doesn't love a character who's gaslit into insanity by Peter Parker? Wonderful character. Anyway,
beloved. Well, do you have like a somebody you're rooting for in this new? Oh, and by the way, I heard rumors that like Tom Holland and Zendaya might be on the outs, and personally I'd be sad for them. That might be the best thing to happen for these movies.
We'll get new characters.
Just switch it up.
I know, but because they were like, well, what are they going to do with Zendaya now? And I'm like, I mean, she could take a break and be in Dune movies. Like, what does it have to be? Like, does MJ have to be in the next trilogy? She was literally in the last trilogy for virtually no good reason. I'm not complaining. I actually really liked her. I love their chemistry, and I think it worked out really well. Do I like them as much as Garfield and Stone? Hell no. But I liked them well enough for us to get through the movie and enjoy the story such that it was. But I'm ready for something new. We're in New York. He's isolated from everybody. It would be nice if it wasn't in this weird, like, pseudo creepy relationship where he's like, I'm just going to date you, even though I literally have like 4 years worth of knowledge of who you are.
Yeah. Like a Superman Returns type.
Yeah. We don't need a Superman Returns.
Some of your memory, but you know.
Well, knowing Hollywood, he'll just kiss her and then she'll remember everything anyway, like Superman. But like,
dude, that's another good question. How do you think, like, if we commit to saying, at some point we're going to circle back to Zendaya,
right? How
does Marvel undo that?
Oh, I mean, like, they could. I think it would be something as simple as like a kiss, but it also could just be Doctor Strange undoing a spell, or like, the spell wears off, or once he starts like living the life of somebody, like once he meets the Gwen Stacy of his reality, it like shatters the illusion, because he's like, oh, now you're going in the footsteps of the other reality. I don't know what their the reality is they wouldn't either. They wouldn't know until like the day some writer who's never read a Spider-Man comic book decides to write that script.
Dude, you know what they're gonna do is post Secret Wars, like soft reboot, it's fixed.
Yeah.
It's fixed now. They're back together. It's all good.
Yeah. Right. But I mean, honestly, I am rooting for at least a couple of characters. The one that I think we all want the most out of all of them, as far as like seeing it in the movie, doesn't have to be who he marries. In fact, I think that would be a horrible idea for a variety of reasons, but it's got to be Felicia Hardy. I want to see a Black Cat in these movies.
Yeah. Yeah. At 100%. Black Cat's always, as a kid, as a prepubescent boy reading 90s Spider-Man comics, Black Cat left an impression.
Big time. Yeah. Undeniably.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I do think, isn't Peter dating her now in the comics?
It's kind of up in the air. Like,
okay,
Peter, honestly, right now at like Marvel, they are not really focusing on that. It is very much not a subject of they just know it's smarter to not even deal with it.
Because like you said, I don't see them necessarily being Endgame, just because of like I don't know. It's tricky because like obviously there's a lot of DNA share between her and Catwoman.
Yes,
but yeah, man,
there's enough to make her individual. Like, she is. I at least I feel like I know who Felicia Hardy is as a character enough to be like, let's put Black Cat into these movies. It's like, I got it, and I think what adaptation did it the best, and it's Spectacular Spider-Man yet again, where it's like,
Yeah.
here she is, dropped in the middle of it. She's already established as Black Cat. We don't need to see her origins. We get that, we glean them, you know, like she's fun and she's scary and she's like, you know, way too fast for Peter, and you know, he's trying to keep up, and also she's got this like criminal element. Putting Daredevil in your movie would also add another element of like, Daredevil's like, we gotta take her down, and Pete's like, I kind of want to go out with her though.
Yeah, dude. Seriously, Black Cat fits in so well when you say, like, if you talk about Peter Parker teaming up with Matt Murdock to fight Kingpin, like Black Cat can easily fit right in there.
Yeah, easily.
I'm with you. Do you have like a? No, I think Black Cat's great, and it's just a testament to like a lot of. There's a reason Batman endures so much, like endures so well, that like even his rogues are like a template. Like Catwoman's such a strong template.
Yep.
That you're like, Black Cat. It's like, yeah, that works, and somehow also is distinct enough that you're like, yeah.
Well, and the movie's written, you know, like it's tough. Like with Batman, you go, oh man, I'd love to see a Batman Mad Hatter movie, and immediately wrote there, the whole movie's written.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, I know exactly where to go with that, you know. And the same with Batman's rogues. It is with Spider-Man's women. You could be like, oh, I want the female love interest to be, and it's like, if it's Betty Brant, then you know it's going to be Daily Bugle centric, which means it's going to be J. Jonah Jameson directed, and it means that you're probably going to go Spider Slayers or Scorpion with it. That's your movie. If it's, you know, if it's Gwen Stacy, well, it's probably going to be goblins. If it's going to be Black Cat, well, now you got to go with like either Kingpin or crime or some kind of element of like street crime, and that's like, if the rumors are to be believed, that Feige and Sony are butting heads already over whether they want a $400 million bombastic multiversal Spider-Man sequel or a grounded street level Daredevil crossover.
Yeah.
And when I say Daredevil crossover, I mean, I am literally ascribing my own expectations and hopes onto that. The reality, the rumor so far is street level crime, not Daredevil team up. But I mean, he was in No Way Home.
Come on, man. And especially, and they love. And I think that's a good, to me, if I'm talking to Sony, that feels like a good compromise. Like, listen, you know, maybe not another multiverse thing, but like Spider-Man teaming up with Daredevil will sell tickets. And if you can fit Punisher in there too, you're selling tickets, man.
Yeah, Spider-Man Gang War would be a friggin' hell of a movie. And I don't mean like Gang War, the adaptation of either the current or the previous adaptations. Just like, oh, Punisher's killing gangsters. Yeah. And Pete and Matt have to deal with it, and they have very different ideas about what that is. And Felicia Hardy is involved, and Punisher maybe wants to kill her.
Yeah.
And Matt's like, well, we can't kill her, but we got to arrest her. And Pete's like, I mean, I was thinking maybe we could like have sex with her.
Yeah.
Like,
and
I don't know.
A full spectrum there, right? You got Punisher on one end, and what I would assume is Spider-Man on the other, and then maybe Matt somewhere in the middle.
Right. Matt's like, we gotta just gotta punch it. Just gotta punch everyone.
Because even I would, if poor Tom Holland saw one fight scene from Daredevil season 1, he'd be like,
oh my god,
calm down. Can you
that dude is intense. Cool? Yeah. Well, especially if like you have to deal with like Kingpin. And it's like, oh man, now you're cooking. Like, you got a Kingpin at one end, Punisher running around the street levels period of the other, Daredevil popping in at the worst opportune times. You know, because you have the rooftop romance of Pete and Black Cat. Black Cat has one direction. She's clearly going in her own direction. Spider-Man thinks that he can anticipate her, has no idea. Again, like, I don't want to focus too heavily on Felicia here, but like it writes itself.
Yeah, and I think what do really and then I think in that movie, so you have this arc where Peter's like, maybe things can work with Felicia, and then it's like, this is not a good fit. You watch that movie, you're like, wow, that was crazy. And then post-credit scene, or MJ, because again, that's the other thing that I think we've missed. That is such a core part. Like talking about these movies, right? Have missed. It's such a core key part of Spider-Man stories. It was in the 90s cartoon, is in Spectacular Spider-Man, is the love triangle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, let's say I was gonna suggest things don't work out with Felicia in Spider-Man 4. But what if they do?
Right.
And then MJ remembers Peter. You're like, oh no.
Dude, you could even do the whole like Homecoming ending where it's like Pete and Felicia have a really tumultuous yet passionate experience. Not like I'm saying we have one big long extended sex scene and just push the boundaries like Eternals.
These are still kids movies.
These are kids movies, but it is passionate as much as like tempers and feelings are high. And again, like Felicia is like a little faster than Peter is in terms of like her wit and expectations, and so it naturally comes to a conclusion that you would narratively expect the end of their relationship to be, right? He walks away from her,
Yeah.
And then like you have that swell of music and like, no.
Yeah.
Like one of them goes, no, you know what? Why shouldn't we make it work? And
Yeah,
they
we're good
kiss, they
together.
reconcile. And it's
Yeah.
like, all right, you know what? I am going to try it. Like, would it be cleaner and easier if we just broke up and I just met like Carly Cooper or something? Sure. But like,
Yeah.
let's make it work. And then he goes home. Hell, they go home.
Yeah.
And they're making out, and he's got the mask half up, and then the door opens. He leaves
Yeah.
the door open. They're making out while they're in his apartment, right?
Yeah.
And then MJ's standing in the doorway,
Oh,
and she goes,
no.
I guess you hit the jackpot." And you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
"No,
yeah. No, yeah,
you
dude.
just
Oh
ruined
my God.
everything."
Oh my God, dude. And that's Spider-Man. Like that, what you just
That's Spider-Man.
that's
You
Spider
go to
that's
the theater going
core
like,
of the character.
"No!" That's
Yeah.
how it should feel. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like that should be like, and they need to commit to that stuff. That was another thing that they teased with like I remember the end reveal of Homecoming with May finding out. And it's like
Yeah.
there's so much to unpack there that they just gloss over. And it's like, no, you need to commit to that soap opera melodrama because
Big time.
that's a key part of what, because I remember as a young, like 15, however young I was when that first Spider-Man movie come out.
Yeah.
That movie articulated the feeling of, because obviously it's heightened, that's not like what high school is like, but it's how it feels when you're in it. And
Yeah.
it articulated that feeling, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I think like that's part of what makes Spider-Man so, like, you look at somebody like Superman or Batman, that's like
Right.
wish fulfillment. I wish I could be that cool. Like I
Yes.
wish I could be like, I'm watching I know Alan Richardson has been like, you know, I want to be Batman, because who wouldn't want to be? And I've been watching that Reacher show, and
Yeah.
it's nuts because he's a mountain of muscle, and he can like break everybody's neck, but he's also like Sherlock Holmes, where he's like picking on details. And I'm like, too many things.
It's a lot of things.
He's too good at too many things. And but that's like Batman. So that's that wish fulfillment. Peter's like at
The
least
consequences of the wish.
yeah, exactly. And you get the wish fulfillment of being Spider-Man, but then like the like, I don't know what girl I want to be with, and that's
The wishy-washy nature of the wishy-washy part of human nature is what makes Spider-Man appealing and relevant. It makes him like relatable. People like that not because of necessarily. They also love the fact that like there's two Spider-Man camps, I think, in terms of fandom. There's the camp that is like the bad interpretation of Indiana Jones, which is that Indiana Jones has no personality, and I want to be Indiana Jones, and that's why I ascribe myself to be Indiana Jones, and why later Indiana Jones movies don't work because he's old and I never want to die.
Yeah.
That's a sucky interpretation of Indiana Jones, but I think there's a subset of Spider-Man fans who are like, I am Spider-Man.
Mhm.
And so when bad things happen to Spider-Man, they're happening to me, and I'm sad. Like, and it bothers me when I see like bad things happen. I just want a book where Spider-Man just does whatever he wants, whenever he wants to, and he never gets called out on it, and he always gets what he deserves.
Yeah.
And it's like, I understand that mentality because that is like in one part what junk food fiction is.
Yeah.
On the other, that ain't what Spider-Man ever was, and it's like it's bad for you. That kind of fiction, that kind of indulgence is bad for you in terms of like narrative fulfillment. And then there's the other camp that's like, I like Spider-Man because my life is better than his. It's like watching like Married with Children, where I'm like, well, at least my life doesn't suck like that.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like I remember I was watching that Nathan Fielder show, The Curse.
Yeah.
And every time I finished an episode, I was like, well, thank God my life's not like that, man. Thank God my wife actually likes me.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but I wanted to point out, it looks like
please do. Yeah.
from Dr. J.
Yes, Dr. J.
Who Peter and Kitty Pryde, like Ultimates did. My dream when I go to bed at night, and I think, what does DJ want? I want the next Spider-Man trilogy to be. This would give me everything. The MCU could close the book on the MCU with DJ being happy.
Yes.
Tom Holland Spider-Man teaming up with Charlie Cox's Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man teaming up with the Fantastic Four, like a canon
Absolutely.
Fantastic Four, and then Spider-Man teaming up with the X-Men.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where you have to end, because you can't. That's it. Like that. This 90s kid, like the Spider-Man X-Men video game where they fought, arcade, the 90s cartoon where they team up, like that's everything.
Yeah, it is. No, it's
if you got Kitty seating in Kitty, like maybe he starts dating Kitty Pryde before
the X-Men are even established, or before we get a movie. Yeah, no.
That's good stuff.
Right? No, I mean, like, especially if like you don't establish who she is. Maybe she's like, you do kind of an ultimate spin on it where it's like she's going to his high school. She's a new transfer student. Her name's Catherine. She's trying to leave that whole life behind her. She has like other things going on. She has like a dual life like Spider-Man, but we never see her second half.
Yeah.
You know, like he's like, I gotta go. And then he goes to give her a lame excuse about leaving, and she's already gone.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so he's like, oh, that's weird. Well, all right. Well, that's convenient for me. Thwip. And then you find out like, oh, I'm a mutant. And and you end the movie with the friggin' Blackbird come in to pick her up.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude, okay. All right. Oh my God. We're cooking with gas right now. All right. So Spider-Man 4, not Shadowcat, Black Cat. We set that up. You know, maybe
it's the cat trilogy.
It's the cat trilogy. Spider-Man, the 5, right? The second one of this trilogy. I like this. Maybe she's Kate. Maybe she's Catherine. She's taking college classes with him. Maybe the professor's Miles Warren as a joke. Maybe we don't do anything with that.
Please.
This is a joke. This is a joke. And like you said, she's vanishing. And like we all know, this is like in the first Iron Man where Coulson's showing up. And you're like, wait, I think I know what we're doing here. Hold on.
Oh my God, are we doing S.H.I.E.L.D.? And he's like, yes, we are.
And then, God, that Nick Fury reveal at the end, like, oh wow, you guys really committed. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Earned so much goodwill in that moment. Anyway, and then, like you said, then we set up like the post-credit scene sets up X-Men for the next one. And then maybe we unpack like because Kitty's a better fit. I love Felicia Hardy. Kitty's a better fit for Peter than Felicia is. So maybe we set that up. And so the third movie is Spider-Man the X-Men, and he's got to decide Kitty Pryde or MJ.
Well, I mean, honestly, like the Ultimate Spider-Man relationship, like we see like very quickly into their relationship. He's like, oh, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is going to be very complicated. Extricating myself from the situation is going to be very hard.
Yeah.
And he's not thinking of it like that. Like he's not thinking strategically or like maturely or immaturely in this case. Yeah. But he is like, there's no way. Like,
dude, and then you get to have Wolverine be like the protective dad.
Watch it. Exactly. Ooh. Oh yeah. Oh hell, your Spider-Man 5 is just a Wolverine Spider-Man team up movie where it's what if Homecoming, but he teams up with Vulture instead, and it's like, hey, I know you're like you want to bang my daughter, that kind of like attitude.
Yeah.
But like, you know, them in the Savage Land or something. I mean, that's like a ridiculous plot that also seems to fall lockstep with the weird mandate of like, oh, don't spend too much time in the one place he's most famous for.
Yeah, it's so funny is that that you're right. It completely flies in the face of every complaint we've made. But Spider-Man and Wolverine in the Savage Land is a movie I would 100% watch.
But I'll pay double for it. Like, because it is also, it's not like, oh man, like you got to admit, Far From Home was awesome and it justified it being in Europe because.
Yeah.
Because Hydro Man and like Molten Man were fake. Like, because a couple of other his Rose Galleries, it turns out, was holograms. Like, that's not fun. That was hardly a trade-off. You know, but Nick Fury was in it. Oh, but guess what? He was actually a stupid, terrible Skrull who was in a really disappointing show.
Yeah. But we can earn our audience some goodwill because our street level Spider-Man Daredevil one is very New York centric.
Yes.
If the next movie he's hanging out with the Fantastic Four, you're going to be a little bit of New York time in there.
Oh, definitely. He's got to break in. You got to do the whole like Amazing Spider-Man 1 sequence where he's like, maybe like after he's overindulging with Felicia. Too much. And so his life is kind of like he got evicted or he's going to get evicted. You know, it's very similar to the Raimi trilogy, but here's where it switches.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'll just go get a job with the Fantastic Four. He breaks into the thing. He meets the Fantastic Four. And maybe instead of it being, because at the end of that scene, it's great. In Amazing Spider-Man 1, he like breaks in, he shows off his fantastic abilities. He kicks all their asses one by one. And then he asks for a job and they make fun of him and he leaves. Instead of that, he's like, hey, I'm here. He tries to kick their ass. He screws up an experiment of theirs. They all get sucked into the negative zone. They fight Annihilus.
Yeah.
Right? And while he's there, they're like, wait, we're here for, like, why did you even break in? He's like, oh, I need a job. And they're like, we're nonprofit. He's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's your movie.
Yeah, he doesn't get that until he teams up with in the comics until he becomes an Avenger.
Exactly.
But, or switch it up. And I feel like, we've gone to this well a few times and I could see how people would be tired of it, except I would argue we haven't really done it right. But you could lay the seeds for the symbiote suit in the Daredevil one. And then for, because in the comics, he went to Reed to like help get the suit off.
Exactly.
And now I could see a reality where our Tom Holland Spider-Man versus Venom movie is also him teaming up with the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And you could even do something like they did. Because it's so funny, like in a lot of ways with these adaptations, almost like the law, like somebody needed to have set the precedent for you to like do it, right?
Yeah.
If you wanted to have Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four be your Spider-Man and your Venom movie, you could look at the Spider-Man 2 PS5 game
Yeah.
And it's like at the scale of it, like that's a threat that like Spider-Man teaming up with the Fantastic Four makes sense. It also helps you get out. If in 4 you lay the groundwork, it is a bummer he's not hanging out with Fantastic Four and Spider-Man 4, but whatever. Whatever, man.
Yeah,
But
I agree. Oh yeah, there's 4. Plus, there's also the weirdness. This is just a side tangent, but like John Watts left the franchise to go do Fantastic Four, and now isn't doing Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Will he come back to Spider-Man and then shoehorn in the Fantastic Four?
I actually think John Watts, he directed I think the first 2 episodes of that Jeff Bridges show, The Old Man, and it was excellent. He did a really good job, to the point where, I don't want to be mean, but to the point when I saw John Watts' name come up, I was like, what?
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
And so while I think he is, I would like to see, what I'm trying to say is I'd like to see a different director tackle Spider-Man.
I agree. I mean, definitely. Yeah, I agree, unless like it's John Watts, the guy who has more clout and can get away with having a voice now.
Yeah.
But like
I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think that's why they kept hiring John Watts.
No,
he was good at being yes, Mr. Kevin, yes.
Yeah, no, we could shoot poor Flash Thompson against the green screen and say that it's the most empty New York's ever been. That'll look good.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, really quick, Nerd Apocalypse also agreed with you about Kitty Pryde, and again, we just pitched you a hell of a movie that you'd watch the shit out of. Cam says his new girlfriend should be the black suit, make it a real relationship with a bad breakup, like in the comics, not the one ring that corrupts Peter. Oh, I love your gumption, and I could see an executive that's like, I love that idea, because that just scratched an itch that I didn't know I had. But but outside of it, I think we kind of got it. Like I think Toby's overindulgence of himself and his like emo Peter Parker version is like him having a love affair with himself, which is basically him being with the suit.
Yeah, and that's tricky too, and that's one of the bummers. You and I did an episode where we talked about the Spider-Man 2 game, and that is one of the bummers, one of the mini bummers of that Spider-Man 3 is that it was one of the few times where Peter being corrupted, there was an error of function because of the adaptations of Peter we've seen, other than maybe the 90s cartoon.
Yeah.
The Tobey Maguire version struggles with his selfishness the most. There is a dark side to that Peter Parker. Whereas like in Spider-Man 2, the game, they have to kind of invent we've clearly established that this is just a good dude. And so now we have to invent a dark side for this.
Yes, 100%.
So you went big on Black Cat. Do you have somebody in mind of who you think would be a good, an actress who would be a good Black Cat?
Oh, man. Oh no. Yeah, I hadn't thought about actresses, only because I was like, well, we'll never get through all the girls, but
yeah.
But I mean, like, I'm trying to think of like current fun women who would be able to enable like inhabit the physicality of the role, and also like the kind of like there's a thing about Black Cat that I want them to capture that I know they won't, because it's like it's got a little too real, and it's just that like that kind of like just a little bit crazy. I want that just a little bit crazy element to Black Cat, where like when Peter takes off his mask in the comics and shows Felicia who he is, she immediately starts screaming at him.
Yeah.
And she's like, put it back on. No. And I'm like, that's very high melodrama. It's like 70s comics, 80s comics actually. But like there's people like that.
Yeah, that she really doesn't care about I mean, truthfully, you're right. This is kind of dark. It's a Joker thing. Like I actually don't care. If I found out who Batman would ruin it for me.
It would. Yeah, you like I might never find you sexually attractive again after this.
No.
Regardless of your intentions, or how quickly you put the mask back on. It's like, oh, that is a real person as well. And I would love to see something like some level of that where you're like, dude, this is pretty great. Like you get a montage of like the two of them swinging through the city, and like maybe they're doing some kind of fun stuff, like in No Way Home, where you saw like after the three of them resolve to work together, they suddenly are able to like work together. Like one of them like shoots a web, the other one loops the webs together, and like like they're working together, and like doing an extended sequence of Spider-Man and Black Cat swinging through across the city. You're like, this is perfect. Like
dude, and from Daredevil in there, like they're all on the same page. We're all gonna do this thing. It's like
and then like they're gonna eat, and it's like and she unlocks the crazy, and you're like, oh no. Like, be careful what you wish for. I want that kind of relationship. Again, I don't know if that could be embodied in one one woman, but do you have any thoughts for actresses? I mean,
It's tough. There's a lot of in the comments, and I would just point out a lot of people are. Anya Taylor-Joy, I think, is close to Tom Holland's age, but like somebody like Samara Weaving, at least
ooh,
projects older, and
yeah.
not older like I guess you could
Like Betty Brant and Peter, like where it was originally established she is actually technically older than Peter. Like this is more
yeah.
like, yeah,
I don't know that, which I
more
guess it could.
mature.
Yeah, I guess it could. I guess that could totally work. But it's tough because I think like pick any one of the core four cast of Madam Web. Any one
Yeah,
of them would be a good Black Cat, and it's a bummer that I'm assuming I haven't seen it yet. It's a bummer
yeah.
that we're wasting them on Madam Web.
Oh no, it is true. Yeah,
Yeah,
like Sydney Sweeney would be a really fun Felicia Hardy.
and they're also she co-stars with Zendaya and nobody ever talks about this,
Yeah,
but the Spider-Man movies, the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, love their stunt casting. They cast Birdman as Vulture, they cast Bubble Boy as Mysterio. They
that's
love
true.
that stuff. And
Yeah,
so like having Zendaya's Euphoria co-star as Black Cat as her like romantic foil.
yeah,
Man,
pretty sweet.
come on, man. Like it's right there.
Yeah, yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, again, a lot of people. Oh, Joey King. That's actually not a bad suggestion. A lot of people
Yeah,
are throwing out like millennials, and you need to be thinking more Gen Z. I think. Yeah, I think you
yeah,
need to
yeah,
be
yeah.
thinking a little bit more Gen Z. You're picking
Right.
people like my age. I don't think that
No, it's
works.
true. It would be, yeah. I might know those names better, but it wouldn't necessarily work for the
And
purposes of the story.
you could probably like you and I both admitted like Zendaya actually had like a pretty significant following before Homecoming. You and I weren't aware of it.
Right,
Like
right, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, really quick, just so we make sure everybody gets heard. Mickey Veach mentions that knowing Sony Marvel, they'll combine two characters like they did with Ned and Genki, like pick Carly Cooper and name her Felicia. This is unfortunately one of the most realistic takes I've heard about the new Spider-Man trilogy, which breaks my heart. So like, let's move on. Thank you, Mickey.
Mhm.
Cat Lawyer will depend for treats. Would you want her to be super? In my opinion, both can work. Building on that point, I think we were like, oh, it'd be really cool to see Kitty Pryde with Peter and
Yeah.
like set up the X-Men or imply the X-Men. I think the most likely scenario is that we will see some kind of like weird flirtation between Peter and maybe Ms. Marvel.
She's too young though,
Is she
right?
too young? I don't
She
know.
is in
Like,
high school. She is a high schooler, and Peter at this
right,
point
but
is
is she
not.
technically a senior? Like, could you? I don't know.
I don't like playing those games, Sal. If I'm being honest, I don't
That's
like.
fair.
I
That's
don't
true.
like playing those games. I don't
That's
want
fair.
to.
That's fair. I do think of Tom Holland as like a much younger actor, and I assume any woman playing a high schooler is actually 28 years old.
Yeah,
So I could be completely wrong or off
yeah,
that base. Yeah.
yeah, and I think, and I don't know that there's that much of an age, but you clear high school a little bit more before that.
Agreed. That's fair. That's
Um,
fair. Yeah.
but yeah,
But
I
I don't
just
want her to be super. I don't like them. I
well,
don't like it like that.
and I see what you're getting at there too, because I do feel like, especially with some of the stuff they're doing in the comics right now, they are setting up Miss Marvel to be their Kitty Pryde Jubilee
Yes.
gateway into the X-Men in a
Totally.
way that unfortunately feels a bit confused to me.
Yeah.
I think that could work. I think the way they're doing it is weird.
Yeah.
And I like that actor, Iman Vellani. I think
Yeah.
she's great. I think she's
I
really,
know. No, she's wonderful.
I think that's the one thing for all the ups and downs Marvel's having right now. I think
Yeah.
their casting's still pretty rock solid.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Because I like,
yeah,
I think you could actually see I think that if anything, they are considering, or at least they should be considering a Spider-Man Ms. Marvel team up movie because I feel like their chemistry would just completely like rocket.
and even to the degree that even take the romance out of it, but just the idea,
Exactly. No, just like a mentor kind of
I was the
relationship.
kid superhero. Now you are the kid superhero. That's great. Like
That's
I think
great.
that's really compelling. I think that'd be really cool. I
I
mean,
agree.
dude, what about this? Let me hit you with this. What about Peter Parker and Kate Bishop? Get Haley Steinfeld in there.
I mean, that's wonderful because she is. I just anytime you're like, oh man, Kate Bishop, bring her into these movies. I'm like, oh yes, sold.
Yes.
Because she's so
It's
awesome.
the way they play them, it's like, wow, Peter would be batting way out of his league, which is
Oh
weird
yeah,
because he has like powers and stuff. But like, yeah, Kate Bishop's just way cooler than you, man.
she's just way cooler. Yeah, no, it's true, and she would take no prisoners when it comes
Yeah.
to like her attitude and reaction to him.
Oh man,
It'd
I
be
might
so
actually
great.
be real into that. That might be really because it'd be such a different. I do like the idea of at least one of the girlfriends being
Yeah.
a superhero just because that's unlike anything we've seen them do in the movie so far, and it's something they don't explore in the comics a lot.
No, it's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, well, they keep pushing the Carol Danvers relationship in the comics, and I'm like,
That's weird.
or at least they did. They kept
Yeah.
pushing it. Eventually, they got the message that the audience was like, none of us are interested in that, and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool, sorry. But yeah, I just what was it? Kings Port Cal says, good job on the Nightfall Redux. Thank you. I loved it. Seeing it twice so far. I need more. Tell Ben I love him, but he's not always funny. Gunplay, let's go. All right. I will not be telling my one of my best friends that he's not funny, but thank you for your support.
Thank you for that. Gunplaymovie.com. Thank you.
Gunplaymovie.com.
Yeah.
Ray Farr, DJ Woo, ComicPop 2, I guess. Just kidding. ComicPop Woo 2. Thank you very much. Can't wait for Gunplay. How about Nora Winters? MCU, Sony just using the names anyway. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Nora Winters. You mean Mr. Freeze's wife?
Yeah, I wasn't gonna wait. Nora Winters. Oh, wait. Trying to pull back the curtain in my mind. Nora Winters.
No, she. Oh my God, the frontline reporter.
Dude, you know what I want them to do? Tangent. Anybody that listens to Sal on my shows know that we tell just all the tangents. Gosh dang it.
Yeah.
I want them. What was it? Phil Urich? Not Ben.
Yes.
Ben Urich's the younger one, right? Phil Urich.
Phil Urich is the younger one. Ben Urich is the son.
Ben Urich.
Yeah.
I get great. The Daredevil shows are canon now,
but Ben didn't die.
Ben didn't die. Either Ben didn't die. And here's one of the things that is still my pet peeves from season 1. If you're going to kill Ben, at least have him be the one that gives the Daredevil the name Daredevil.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Have him like he needs to matter to who Daredevil is on some level. If you're going to kill him off, but can you imagine that actor? That actor's so good. He was just
so good.
Primeval.
Oh no, dude!
It was
J.K. Simmons. All I wanted to see was that. Like when they were dealing with the newspaper and how it was like this ragtag kind of like rundown paper, I was like, oh well, this will be the Bugle.
Yeah.
Like and because I didn't understand like how just like even when they have the opportunity to take the shot, they don't.
Yeah.
No, I was like, dude, just make it the Bugle.
Dude, and can you imagine? It feels like and maybe we're crazy, maybe we're too in the weeds with this stuff, but could you imagine? It feels like such an easy win to have. Granted, this is the studio that just now is like, oh, maybe we should reshoot the Daredevil show. So like the cast members we love are part of it. Could you imagine like Deborah Ann Wall and like Foggy and like in the Daredevil Spider-Man movie?
Yeah, no, I desperately want that. I want I want all of that. I want J.K. Simmons in that universe as well. Yeah. Like I want maybe he acquires the paper that they worked at.
Yes.
Like and then it becomes the Daily Bugle. He's like, no, it's all about diversification.
Truthfully, because right now in this universe, he's just doing the podcast thing.
Well, I think it became like a news network. Like
a news network. So he buys their paper, and this is actually really timely. He buys their paper. And then realizes because you can't end that movie because you're never going to be able to mention the Daily Bugle in those shows.
No.
So he buys the paper, realizes, and that's the kind of like the character conflict.
Yeah.
Is he's like ruining their paper, and it ends with him. He bails on it because he realizes it's not a moneymaker, and so then that sets up Daredevil season 5 or whatever.
Right.
Oh man, it's a bummer because I'm doing what fans should know better. Game of Thrones fans did to themselves. I'm getting excited for stuff that I'm never going to see.
No, that just ideas that we're having off the cuff that Hollywood is like, just because you like now that you've had the idea, even if I saw it, I couldn't use it.
Yeah.
But I would never use it. Michael Stevens says Black Cat also fits with Pete entering his young adulthood and having more performatively mature girlfriend and love interest. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of fun. Dr. J, obviously. Nerdpocalypse returns to say, if you want street level Spider-Man, what about Jean DeWolf as a love interest? I could see as a Sin Eater movie.
Dude, we're never getting Sin Eater. Never.
I would love to see that, and we'll never get it.
Ever. We'll get Punisher. Yeah, Punisher's close enough.
You could do the Sin Eater story, but it's Punisher.
Yeah.
The only difference is that Punisher, I don't think, would blow Jean DeWolf away. And you don't get the fun, like, switcheroo of like, oh my God, they were working together. But you do get to have the fun, like, this is if you don't do Black Cat or if you imply Black Cat, but like, you could have the kind of like, she's older, but he's in a mask, so it's an okay fantasy to have relationship between Jean and Spider-Man.
He's an adult, right?
He's an adult, yeah.
No. So you get it's not like the same as Spectacular.
Right, exactly.
Wait, is this okay? Wait a second.
It is not.
Yeah.
Get Shitty says Spidey dates Johnny Storm, any gender.
Do it.
I never thought about Johnny Storm being anything other than like a dude, but knock
Do
yourselves
it.
out.
Yeah.
And Tevia, why not have Jackpot Mary Jane as a love interest? Because they already named Michelle Jones MJ. I think it would muddy the waters to like introduce a white red-haired Mary Jane.
And especially since he met the other Tobey Maguire
Spider people
that has a marriage, and that's as much as I love No Way Home,
yeah,
it's like we can't. There's not now a way to do a clean version of, and by clean I mean like a fresh introduction of
yes,
Green Goblin or Doc Ock without having to mention the fact that this Spider-Man has already fought a version of him.
yeah. Literally, my aunt was murdered by an interdimensional Green Goblin.
Yeah, and you could do. I was talking to my friend Hector Navarro about like you could do, a version of Norman shows up that seems like a good guy, but Peter doesn't trust. And it's one of those classic things because Peter doesn't trust him, he inadvertently makes him a villain.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't mind Spider-Man dipping his toe in multiverse stories or like sci-fi stories, as in like the alien suit. Sure. I just don't want it to. I want it to always circle back to that more grounded. Like yes. That's not. I don't want him to exist entirely in that reality 100% of the time.
Yeah. No. The other thing that I think would be interesting, and again, like I know people were saying no to this, but like I feel like you can't really. Do you do Gwen Stacy or not? Like, do you have him go like, oh, I think I think one of my multiversal counterparts had one of you and you died.
Yeah.
So I got to be like overly protective or stay away from you completely. Like, is that a story there? Is there anything there for Gwen? Or is it like, or do you just go clean with it and just go, nah, we'll just make it Carly and she's a roller derby girl or something.
Yeah, dude, honestly, I think what you do with Gwen Stacy is you seeing how much money you can offer Emma Stone to do a Spider-Gwen movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like, and again, like I saw some people talking about this because you just mentioned it. Sony wants another Spider-Verse team up movie. Feige and Holland want a more grounded story. So it's like, can we not have Spider-Man 4 be him and Daredevil, but then also maybe Tom Holland or Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield team up and run into Emma Stone's? They could do a whole we don't. As far as
Tom doesn't have to be there.
Yeah, they're done, and they can, and we can even we can do jokes about like we can bring Paul Giamatti's Rhino back, but he looks like the Rhino.
Yes, exactly.
Like you do that. I don't care. That would be fun because because what I got out as a fan, and this might be just like, my headcanon.
Right.
I don't think their adventures stopped between Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2 and No Way Home.
No.
I assume a whole cavalcade of comic-related adventures happened that I never got to see.
100%.
So you can do whatever you want with them. I don't, and Seed say whatever happened, because I still have those complete stories in the back of my mind. With unless we introduce a fourth Peter, as far as I know, Tom Holland's version of the character is still growing, and there's still juice left there to be mined that I'd like to see. Like the other thing is like when I looked at Norman Winters, there's a picture of Miles here, like and eventually they're gonna have to figure that out and how they want to do. Okay, way off the rails from Spider-Man's girlfriends, but like Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, and pick a Miles. And now you've got your live action Spider-Verse movie, and Tom Holland gets to do whatever he wants. He gets
and Marvel gets to do. He's already in like a crossover movie. Like, Tom Holland is still not done crossing over with the characters we want to see him interact with in that universe.
Yeah, and DC's already giving us. We're getting the Batman and Batman Brave and the Bold.
We can handle it.
Do multiple, and in fact, the fact that Sony is still like, we need to do Kraven and Madam Web instead of just saying we have multiple Spider-Man now and we can just do that is baffling to me.
Yes, well, and because it keeps getting in the way, right? Like, because clearly they're like, well, we can't like let you have too much success with that Spider-Man because we'll want to take him back and put him against Venom or something. Like, I don't know what they're. I don't know what this
Morbius in there.
Right, it's insane. Really quick, Scarlet Hottie says, for some reason, I think Bernie Rosenthal will be a massive hit in the Spider-Man movie. That's a Captain America character, as he points out, but she could fit. I wholeheartedly disagree because she has not even virtually nothing to do with Spider-Man. She is a straight up Steve Rogers love interest.
Yeah.
But thank you for your support. AKA 480, this will never happen, but I'd love to see Cox and Garfield together since they're good friends and I love them in those roles. I mean, you're hitting on something that like I was very much on board for when they announced that they were working on a deal, which was, oh yeah, just Andrew Garfield Spider-Man is in this universe.
Yeah.
I was so on board for that. I didn't need a reboot. I didn't need a new guy.
Yeah.
I like Tom Holland. And I think his movies are fun, and I really like them.
Yeah.
But I love Andrew Garfield, and I was very okay with that.
Yeah.
But now that we're out of that now.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about that too when we were doing the Amazing Spider-Man movies, about how what would have been cool about that is that version, if they just brought Andrew Garfield over, would have been significantly less beholden to like Tony Stark and the rest, because he already has his identity as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And so it would have been less of a like I feel like that version of the character would have been probably a little bit more antagonistic towards Tony.
Yeah.
And a little bit more. The problem is those Amazing movies are kind of bad. So
they're not great. But he's great in them, which is the problem. Like,
yeah, and again, that's what we got. I think that was one of the greatest gifts of No Way Home is Tom Holland, or excuse me, Andrew Garfield and Jamie Foxx being able to be like, we weren't the problem, by the way.
Yeah, clearly.
No,
just as you can see.
Wasn't us, because we're great here. And you're gonna leave this movie being like, why not more? And we're like, yeah, that's what we were saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Landing Laserdiscs. This isn't Mutant Academy.
Yeah.
This is such a treat for the end of the week. Thank you both. Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for your support, Lenny. So yeah, before we wrap up, because I feel like we could talk about this for another hour, but unfortunately, we don't have time for that. But if you haven't already, you should definitely check out gunplaymovie.com, in which you can support this movie and help out DJ by swinging by gunplaymovie.com and supporting his Kickstarter. Get us to the goal, maybe past it. It'd be nice.
That'd be great.
But
Tom knows where my head's at. Yeah,
exactly.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we're talking about multiverses and stuff like that, shared universes and stuff like that. And each of these stories, they exist in. I like to say they don't just exist in the same universe; they exist in the same area code.
Yes.
And so if you want to see, and I love the idea of like offbeat, colorful characters bumping into each other and having forced to like figure out how to exist together. And that's kind of what this story is. So I think you'll love it.
No doubt. I know I will. I haven't yet backed it because honestly I just haven't had a chance to. But I will.
Do it before you forget, dude. Do it for you.
Oh, I know. No, I'm gonna do it like literally at the end of the show.
And again, ComicPop people, you can let me know in the comments, or not the comments here, but the comments over on the Kickstarter, or when we do the backer kit, let me know where you came over from, and you'll get a special sticker. So
yeah, you might get a ComicPop related sticker. Who knows? Please. You got to check it out. But DJ, thanks so much for being here. Of course, if you want more DJ, go to youtube.com/onlystupidanswers to get more DJ goodness, and check out our show. We have a Patreon exclusive show called Spider-Versity. You can find select episodes on that YouTube channel, but also on patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. Yes. And on that other YouTube channel, we do have our own live public show, Mutant Academy, where we talk about all the X-Men movies. We've gotten all the way up to X-Men Apocalypse. Logan is next.
Yes.
So thank God we got a little break from the bad.
Yep.
Before we get to Dark Phoenix, which we get
Logan and Deadpool 2, and then it's like Dark Phoenix and New Mutants.
And yeah. I'm excited for New Mutants because I haven't seen it since I last saw it, which was when it first came out, which isn't true because when it first came out, it was shelved. I think it was on the shelf for 2-3 years before it was finally released.
What's interesting is the way I remember New Mutants not being as bad as I expected it to be.
Yes. Yeah. Same. No, I was like, oh, this Magic. Yeah. She's great.
Yeah.
No more. She still is.
Yeah.
Nope. That's over.
Yep.
What a shame. But thank you all so much for being here. Thanks for your support. Thank you to our super chatters for sponsoring today's show, and we'll see you guys next time with another episode. Listen, before you go, there's a link available across our social medias. It's the What You Missed from Comic Pop this week. It's a playlist that gets all the videos that you can find that we put out, and we put out quite a few of them. And more than a few recent comic book creator interviews have come out. I know you guys aren't a big fan of that because of it's like eating your vegetables, but I promise you it's like eating vegetables that were dipped in in deliciousness and fried to perfection. So please check those out as well. And make sure to click the link in the comments if you're catching the show after the fact for gunplaymovie.com to help out DJ. And we'll see you guys next time. So long, everybody.